What's been your most valuable investment advice you've ever received?
I would say the best advice is financial freedom equals passive income exceeding your expenses. And so you got three options to do that. You can increase your passive income, you can simplify your life and cut expenses, or you can do both. Like, and that wisdom in particular of just going, okay, you want financial freedom, but here's what that actually looks like. Your passive income has to exceed your expenses. So you can either increase your income, cut your expenses, or you can do both at the same time. And that's how you get there. And that advice came from T. Harv Eker, if you're familiar with him. And following on from that, he actually, one of the best things that I learned from Harv as well was, if you can't manage the money that you currently have, why would God or the universe give you more? And that really stuck with me too. And so I implemented the system called the JARS system on my podcast. I actually break down how to do it, but it's also in Harv's book, Secrets of a Millionaire Mind. But like that JARS system, very similar to the Barefoot Investor, if you've looked at Barefoot Investor. But that system is how I still manage my money today. And it was just, how do you manage your money even when you got a little bit, so that when you start making more, you can still manage that money. That was some of the best advice I ever got.
What are you doing to achieve that?
Yeah, it's always like passive income is always on my mind. So I look at passive income through business, and I think of income in three different ways. You've got active income, you've got leveraged income, and you've got passive income, right? And so I'll sometimes lump some leveraged income stuff into passive, but I know it's not truly passive. So leveraged income, you might be like, what the hell's that? That's an example of like, you buy a house, you flip it, right? Like the money you made was not tied to the time you had to put in. Right. So active income, we all get that. You went and got a job, or you got your salary that you're working hard in your business for. Well, that's that. Profits in your business, to me, that is a leveraged income source, right? You've got other people in your business doing the work. The money you're earning out of that is not directly tied to your hours going in. So anything like buying and selling shares, any kind of trading, to me, that's leveraged income. Even speaking, like if you actively go and speak and you get paid 10 grand for an hour's presentation, or you get paid per ticket for how many people come in the show, it's not directly tied to your time as to how much you actually earn. But then passive income is truly, hands off or a very low touch, maybe once or twice a year, you have to just tweak it and touch it. So property falls into that. Interest. People don't know this, but there are many cryptos that you can earn what they call staking, which is a bit like dividends from cryptocurrency. Really? So there's staking that you can do. Different. So you got proof of work, which is Bitcoin, but then you got proof of stake, which is things like Ethereum and Cardano and other cryptocurrencies. And so they pay off these effectively these dividends, if you like. So that's another form of passive income. But yeah, for me, I've got a mix of property, business, shares with dividends. Like I mix it all together.
That is the perfect lead into the next question. Carl, what's your ideal portfolio mix?
Exactly what I've got. So commercial property for the strong cash flow, leverage, and capital growth. Like I know you and I have had this conversation. Like I don't think enough people in Australia really understand the power and benefit of commercial property. Crypto is speculation. Yes, I talked about you can do staking and stuff. I don't use it for that. To me, crypto is speculation. Even now, I said many years ago to some friends, I said, put $5,000 in. It'll either be worth zero in 10 years time, and it'll be worth something crazy. Hopefully they took my advice, because it'd be worth a decent amount. But I still believe that. Like, I think we're past the chance of crypto going to zero. I think that's long past us. But like, I can't tell you where it's going to land. So it's ultimately speculation. Then you got residential property in Australia in particular. That's for leverage and capital growth. Business for cash flow. Like if I know business, if you know business, like most businesses, if you run them well and you know what you're doing, every dollar you put in, you should be able to return at least 30% back on the dollars you put back into that business, right? Even if that's not direct from profit, you should be able to get that back. ETFs and LICs is a mix of cash flow and capital growth in the share market for me. And then cash sitting in offsets. Like I want cash for quick liquidity, but I put it in offset, so it's guaranteed to just sit there and help lower some costs as well as deploy when I need it.
That's been the best answer I think I've had on this. So a lot of people have had just property, but you've actually got a whole gamut of cards here. Now, my question to you is: do you look at the end of the year? Do you try and do you have a goal? Do you say, okay, I want 30% in property, and I want 50% in residential, 20% in shares, 10%, and rebalance it each year, or are you just trying to, as you go along, think, there's a nice property, I'll buy that one, or something like that? What's your strategy?
To me, to rebalance it, then you've got, especially with property, getting rid of property is a very expensive thing. Like there's a lot of costs when you sell a property. So I'm more of the approach that I'm not saying I'll never sell a property, but I'm more of the approach if I'm buying this, I'm planning to hold on to it potentially forever. Like because I know there's a lot of cost that's going to go in, unless there's a reason to get rid of it that strategically makes sense. Like I'm not looking to rebalance by selling. Right now we're sitting at about a third, not by design, but like we've got a third in liquid assets, we've got a third in property and a third in business. That's just where the portfolio happens to be sitting. That wasn't by design. I'm more just looking at how do I get to the next number. So like I track, if anyone's played the Robert Kiyosaki board game Cash Flow, like that cash flow statement that you use in the game many years ago, I copied that into a spreadsheet and I built that and I just run the cash flow game as my scorecard. I've now updated. I use a tool called Kubera for my net worth tracking. It's amazing. But like still the general cash flow thing. So every month I'm just updating that to see our position, and I'm tracking like, do I have financial security? Do I have financial freedom? And if not, what's the gaps and where do we need to be? Do I have what I call financial abundance, where I've got 2 times my passive income? And so I'm always just looking at what's the next goal and what's the next investment to get us closer to that.
I think you're going to be all right, Carl.